Right, we're live. So, yes, welcome back to Baldwin Sports Media, where I am going to be once again. Hang on, whilst I just make a couple more adjustments. As I say, I'm still trying to work out the ins and outs and the perfect angles for all this, but just move my microphone as well. And no, that's got to stay there. My lovely mug made by my wife. Yeah, so this is the second edition of the Daily Live. Sort my hair out as well. I tell you, we're going to get better at this. Second edition of the live NFL news update videos that I'm going to be doing again, just sprinkling in whatever NFL news there is. Again, it's a bit short this week because, as I said yesterday, there's only two teams left. A lot of talk going on, or a lot of the events going on surrounds the Senior Bowl down there. So some news coming out of that, but not a lot. But it's a bit of a slow one, but we'll try and get through it. And we will start actually with a bit of news from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And once I get my high-fangled notes app here, and this does actually come from the Senior Bowl, and I want to get into Mike Tomlin meeting with or having a conversation with Bo Nix, the quarterback out of Washington. And given the talk that's been going on surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers and the possible changes that could be going on at quarterback, whether that be they stick with Kenny Pickett or whether they go to Mason Rudolph, who is a free agent, so they would have to bring him back. If they won't keep him, they'd have to bring him back, or if they go out and get someone in the draft, maybe. Or I've heard various pundits talking about. I saw on ESPN this morning. Someone was advocating for Justin Fields, another was advocating for Ryan Tannehill, obviously because of the Arthur Smith connection there. So there's been a lot of options. Another one was also opting for Russell Wilson as well. So there's the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh is yet to be solved. Let's just put it that way. But obviously, as a result of that, when you see Mike Tomlin having a conversation with Bo Nix, it kind of leans to one way that they could be looking to draft him, maybe move up in the draft and take him, because it seems are picking quite high. I don't think they're certainly not in the mix for the top ones of Caleb Williams and Drake May, for instance, and Jaden Daniels as well. But maybe a later round quarterback could be in play. But when it comes to Bo Nix, and really any quarterback, or indeed any player when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, you shouldn't really read too much into it. So Mike Tomlin having a conversation with Bo Nix, don't take that as, they are interested in him. Because if you look at Mike Tomlin's, or you listen rather to Mike Tomlin's rhetoric that he's given over the years, he's basically just doing his job and the scout's job of scouting and looking into plays. You look at, or rather you listen to when he has his pre-game press conferences, he'll go through a list of players and he'll say we had a look at it at the Senior Bowl, or we had a good look at him in the draft or at the combine. Basically, the Steelers just go very in depth. Again, I'm not saying they're the only team that does. I'm sure every team goes in depth, but he's the only one sort of brings it up so you can have a point of reference, as it would. So they just go deep into it so that he can say, we looked at him at the Senior Bowl, we looked at him as I mentioned, just so that they have something to look back on when they have to come and play him, or if he becomes available in free agency, they can go back and say, yes, this is what we got at him from. So it's just being thorough. So when it comes to Bo Nix, again, you can go for every position, but I think at the quarterback position specifically with the Pittsburgh Steelers, do not read anything into Bo Nix becoming a potential Pittsburgh Steeler. This is a Tomlin doing what he usually does. And if you listen to what he said at his press conference at the end of the season, he mentioned that he felt that the 2024 Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback was already in the building. So the likelihood is they would either lean on Kenny Pickett or Mason Rudolph, or God forbid, Mitch Trubisky rather. But do not read anything into Bo Nix and potentially being a Pittsburgh Steeler. That's just my quick take on that, just because I've seen, again, a lot of reaction on it on social media. And speaking of social media, that seems to be the only place where I've seen any sort of solid news surrounding Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver A.J. Brown and a possible trade. The only source I could come up with was a Twitter account that literally is NFL rumors. Now, again, this isn't to say that Twitter accounts shouldn't necessarily be taken for anything, but usually when it's an account like that, of that substance, an aggregator or a regurgitator, whatever name you want to give to it, they usually quote a source with it, even if it's not a direct link to the actual article or tweet where it's heard. They will say, for example, in this AJ Brown thing, AJ Brown is being seen as a potential trade candidate with the Philadelphia Eagles looking to offload his cap hit, something along those lines. And then they will say via Tom Pelissero or via Adam Schefter or via Albert. They would link to the source of it, whereas this one didn't. So don't buy into anything that the AJ Brown is going to be going anywhere. Obviously, there is. Again, that's the only thing that has been heard of it, and again, nothing substantial, which is why AJ Brown, speaking on the trade rumors on the Up and Adams show, was quoted to say, maybe they know something I don't. If something happens, I'll be waiting by the phone. But if not, I'll be right here. He's basically saying that he is going to be sticking with the Philadelphia Eagles, or at least he wants to stick with the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, the way it comes out of there, if the Eagles do want to trade him, but again, there's no concrete evidence to say that they do want to get rid of him at this stage. And why would you? You've seen what he's done with Jalen Hurts and that sort of connection that they are building, and how it wasn't his fault or Jalen Hurts' fault that the Eagles collapsed the way they did and cost themselves potentially another run at the Super Bowl. So I don't see any reason why the Philadelphia Eagles would want to get rid of him. If you want to play into the theory, maybe they are looking to trade off a big asset and a cap hit, because there is potential for a big rebuild to be going on in Philadelphia right now. Because if you take a look at the elder players, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson, they're all in their 30s. They've all got to be moved on at some point. Jason Kelce could very well be this summer, depending on what you read into the report about his future and his comments about his future. It can really go either way, but either way, within the not too distant future, they are going to have to be replaced. So there could be a rebuild going on in Philadelphia, and his salary cap moving on could be a part of it, but do not read into anything quite just yet. When it comes into AJ Brown, him saying it himself, I think that's pretty much all the evidence that you need that he's not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. Moving on, third bit of today, and Dallas Cowboys owner and GM Jerry Jones has basically said that the quote is, "There is no doubt that we could work together," and he's basically not ruled out the possibility of Bill Belichick joining the Cowboys. Now, what sort of role would that be for Bill Belichick? It's a bit of an interesting one. It would also be somewhat ironic, because if you know Bill Belichick's history, he is a Bill Parcells guy. We have these coaching trees in the NFL. There's the Schottenheimer tree, there's the Bill Parcells tree. They're the main ones that come through. Was that me? There's a light bulb that came up. I don't know if that was me, but anyway. But there are a couple of coaching trees that come through, and he's a Bill Parcells guy. Obviously, Bill Parcells did coach in Dallas, and if it happened to work out that Bill Belichick were to get the all-time wins record taken away from Don Shula, if he were to follow Bill Parcells and go to Dallas to do that, it would be some level of irony. But either way, if it's a head coach or if it's a GM, either way, as much as Jerry Jones has said that he could see it working out, in theory, that's good. In words, that's good. In terms of how it would work, like in practice, I just do not see that being. I just do not see that being a possibility, because if you look at the amount of control that Bill Belichick has had with the New England Patriots, he's had his whole hands, or his fingerprint, on basically everything the organization has done, or did rather, in the past 25 years. I don't see why or how he would want to give that up, especially as he will probably believe in his mind that he was the reason that the Patriots were so successful during all those years. So again, there is evidence to suggest that it was mainly Tom Brady, but he will want to at least think that it was down to him, and he'll say, "Oh, it was because of these decisions that I made," and "Oh yes, like signing Rob Gronkowski, for instance, or drafting Rob Gronkowski, for instance, that was my job." And again, he can use whatever he can to sort of argue that he should be a head coach and GM. At the same time, you have Jerry Jones, who is the owner and GM of the Dallas Cowboys. Those two personalities just meeting in the middle as GM, I just don't see how there's any way that Jerry Jones wants to give that up either. I don't see how Bill Belichick. I just don't see it working. Again, you can see the appeal for Jerry Jones to the marketing in and of itself, and the buzz that it will create for the Dallas Cowboys on a weekly basis, daily basis, well, more than it does anyway, to have Bill Belichick, the greatest coach of all time, in charge of the most prestigious, if you want to put it that way, franchise of all time, or at least the wealthiest and most valuable franchise, I think they still are, of all time. You can see the appeal, But in theory and in no, in theory and in practice are two different things. I just do not see that happening. I just don't see it working out. Again, if Belichick wants to come in as a football advisor later in his career, like we've seen Bruce Arians, for instance, move upstairs with the Buccaneers, and Pete Carroll has done the same with the Seahawks. If that's the way you want to go, fine. But even so, I just don't see. But even then, I wouldn't see Bill Belichick keeping things hands off. He would want to have his own mark on things, and those two clash of personalities. I just do not see them working out, especially with Jerry Jones and how he's wanted to prove that he can make a team of his own. Because that was always the criticism, was that it was never his teams that won the Super Bowls back in the years. It was Jimmy Johnson that won it, and that, if you read all the reports and all the stories, that's what sort of caused the big rift between them and why it took so long for Jimmy Johnson to get into the Dallas Cowboys Hall of Honor or Ring of Honor in that way. So I just don't see Jerry Jones giving up that authority in person. Again, he can say it as much as he wants, but when it comes down to it, if it does, I don't see that lasting more than a year. But that's me. That's me personally. I just don't see those two working out and meshing and working together. But anyway, from two old guys to one very young guy, or at least in the scheme of coaches, the Seattle Seahawks have hired Ravens defensive coordinator Mike McDonald, 36 years old, 6-year contract, showing a lot of faith. And when you look at Mike McDonald's record, it stands to reason why they would, why they give him that job. Seattle wanted to get back to the Legion of Boom days, as it were. That's why Mike McDonald was top 10 in points and yards for the past 2 years with the Ravens. So clearly very effective as a defensive coordinator. Wanted to go from Pete Carroll, another defensive coach. Again, they maybe want to get those days back together and get that feeling back together. But if that is the case, and this is my one, again, caveat behind this, and it was the point I made about Raheem Morris when he took the job with the Atlanta Falcons, is that I can understand why you would want to hire Mike McDonald. You can see the success he's had. But in the NFL today, and the way the league has gone, it's offensive minds that get there. Like the two Super Bowl this year is Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan as the head coaches. Two offensive early party for the Super Bowl, whatever. That wasn't intended. Still, again, as I say, still trying to work these things out. So I'm sure there are some bonuses. If I do that again, does that still happen again? No. Work it out. Pick it up as a good. But anyway, back to the point. Kyle Shanahan and Andy Reid, two offensive guys, are taking their teams to the Super Bowl. Detroit Lions, again, 3 of the 4 in the championship games were offensive-minded, offensive playing teams. So that's why you've got to stick with that. And as I said with the Raheem Morris thing, if you take out Bill Belichick, because he's obviously the greatest coach of all time in that debate, and again, even as things stood, we've sort of leaned that it was maybe Tom Brady that was the reason for the success, because if you look at what Bill Belichick has done and what Tom Brady did, it looked like it was him anyway. But if you take Bill Belichick out, the last defensive coach to win, or defensive-minded head coach to win a Super Bowl, was ironically Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks. So it goes to show you need to be offensive-minded, and defensive-minded coaches in the NFL just, again, there's the limited success they can get you far. Can they take you that one final step and get over the barrier? That's why I think the Seattle Seahawks, again, I'm not sort of saying Mike McDonald shouldn't get a head coaching job. Again, when you have that level of production, you deserve to at least have a shot at that next chance. But the way things are going, is he going to be the guy that gets them deep into a Super Bowl conversation? I just don't think so. Again, I'm not knocking Mike McDonald. By all means, if he is a success, then all for it. I'm not saying he can't, but just historically, we've seen that tends not to be the case in this modern NFL. So, it's a bit of a risk, especially on a 6-year contract. I mean, we've seen some coaches, fail and be out in 2 or 3 seasons. So a bit of a risk to give him that longer contract, especially with the caveat, as I've said, like how far can a defensive coach really go? But we'll have to wait and see again. Good on him again. He's deserved this chance. Whether or not it's going to reap any success, as of this recording, I still do not. I have my doubts. Let's just put it that way. But anyway, we've reached full time on this daily edition of the NFL news update. Again, as I've said, feel free to like, feel free to subscribe, feel free to comment, feel free to go to any of the other social media links, which are down below, and contact me there and let me know what topics or subjects you want to be discussing. And I've seen plenty of comments on my TikTok, for instance, there generating a bunch of things. So by all means, head to there, Instagram as well, my website with the daily article. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. And Twitter as well. Don't forget to like on Twitter. It will always be Twitter. It will never be X. But yeah, that's the 31st of January edition. I hope you guys have a good day. And until I see you next time, you guys all take care.